Last year, over 80,000 Indians submitted fresh petitions for the H-1B visa, which is the pathway for the non-citizens to secure employment in specialty occupations in the United States. With the US President Donald Trump now mandating a hefty fee of $1 lakh on all first-time H-1B applications after September 21st, around a lakh skilled Indian workers will be impacted. Now we have international affairs expert Tridivesh Singh Maini with us, who'll going to explain in detail about this newly Trump's H-1B visa hefty fee. So first of all, sir, welcome to our show.
Thank you for giving this opportunity.
So first of all, I would like to know that for our audience, what is this H-1B visa, and who can apply for it? I know that is a very long debate over this, but I think there are few specific professions that come into this category.
See, basically, it's when you look at the H-1B visa, it's a work visa for individuals with specialized skills. Now, specialized skills can vary, right? And there are also some exemptions. But to cut a long story short, basically it is primarily IT professionals who have benefited the most from the H-1B visa, especially the professionals from India. So in 2024, 70% of the sort of beneficiaries were from India. And out of that, 20% were from two states, that is Telangana and Andhra Pradesh. So there are other areas also, but IT gets maximum attention because naturally it is the IT industry which has benefited the most from the existing H-1B visa program. Now, there's a very simplistic debate that the H-1B visa that leads to locals sort of losing out, and so even when Donald Trump took over as president, there were major debates. On the one hand, you had Elon Musk. On the other, you had the MAGA, Making America Great Again, supporters who were saying that, this needs to be done. In fact, they are saying this needs to be done away with. Whereas others within, Trump and some others say that they want to make the rules more and more stringent for the H1. So this debate is, in fact, even in the first tenure, this debate was there. And since then, a lot of Indian companies have begun to reduce the dependence upon the H-1B visa program because they realize that there will be some major changes and all that. Now, I think some changes were on the anvil. It was expected given the statements which were coming and all that. And because, as I said, in January also there was a debate. Now, the interesting part is that be it Sundar Pichai or be it Satya Nadella, not Satya Nadella, but many others, they have themselves benefited from the H-1B visa program. So a lot of the entrepreneurs today, and a lot
of smart brains of India that are ruling
even other
major
countries,
US
even other countries, top honchos, they have actually come on this H-1B visa sort of thing. So, and it's very simplified to say that Americans lose their jobs and whatever else. There are certain special skills. Yes, there have been accusations of body shopping. In fact, some Democrats have also been arguing against the H. In fact, Bernie Sanders had also said that it was not, his argument was not so much in the context of locals losing jobs. It was more in the context of exploiting individuals and not paying them the right wages and things like that. So indirectly, some Democrats and Republicans were on the same page. The reason for opposing the H-1B visa was different. Now, the fact is, I think even those who say that the fees had to be raised and all, they also realize the realities. You do need talent from outside, and I think this is going to. Since you asked about the broader implications as well, it's not only going to impact just the IT sector, or I see a lot of US companies will also think of moving elsewhere. A lot of companies which are from other countries which are in the US, they will also think of shifting base. Just as an aside, China has come up with a K visa, which is very similar to the H-1B visa, but it has lesser restrictions. So if China can create an ecosystem, and many other, like we've discussed earlier, non-Western countries are creating ecosystems, companies could shift there. Already US companies do have, for instance, a country like UAE, Microsoft has expanded its operations. So all that is happening. But that is one side. You see, because of the H-1B visa and other opportunities, employment opportunities, US was also a sought after destination for international students. That is going to change as well. That will also be impacted significantly. So, as it is, as we were discussing, since last year, since July, August 24 till now, there is a 50% dip in the number of Indian students going to US universities. And there are, so what is happening is, one is H-1B, then you have your optional practical training, which is there after your degree. There are some individuals that scrap it, some are saying you should impose more restrictions. That is one part. Then today, in fact, there is also a memo which has been sent out by the Trump administration to certain universities that you cannot have more than 15% international students and 5% only from one country. So that also then changes the whole dynamic. And then, of course, I don't know, there are also references that, you should that you should abide by American values and things like that. All these things are going to impact the education sector, and already, in fact, some of the universities have already have had to cut their budgets. Now, this is impacting their ability to employ faculty. There will be other massive cuts, and if this keeps on happening, and international students, especially from India, in 2024, they were the largest, for the first time, they had overtaken Chinese as the largest group within the international student body. That has changed now. And now, obviously, Indian students are also looking at other opportunities. So, H-1B is going to impact not just the, it's a very narrow view to look at in the tech sector point of view or some whatever. Higher education is also going to be impacted significantly. That landscape is going to be impacted significantly.
Sir, also I have read a report that local Americans are rejoicing after this H-1B visa fee was imposed, that they are, they are getting more opportunities. They are getting hired for certain jobs. So why, why America needs this H-1B visa, and does it really needs H-1B visa? Are they really threatened? The local Americans are really threatened with Indian brains or the other countries being, or we can call for the Asian brains. So is that is the case?
So it's a very good question. As I had said, we tend to view this whole H-1B in terms of binaries. There are issues, but in any case, certain changes have been brought about. That, for instance, the minimum salary, I think that had already been raised. For hiring, and that is a reasonable thing. But okay, if you want to, because that protects the right of the workers as well. Suppose you're hiring someone, suppose, let's say hypothetically the average salary a US worker would get $120,000 a year, and you're hiring someone at 80, that is exploitation. So having those rules in place is good. And maybe to an extent it's fine that if for jobs where overseas workers are being paid less, then it's fine if American workers are being, that's okay. There are certain jobs maybe, yes, if the local, they're also justified. But a lot of it is rhetoric. People just believe what they see. There has to be more. But for a job, let's say, for instance, where you need somebody, you're paying $150,000 or whatever, and those skill sets and all are restricted, then the H1, you need people with specific skills. You can't escape that. And locals may not have those skills and thing. And by the way, I may also mention a lot of people, in any case, if they were from top Indian institutions like IITs, and especially the IITs, they were being hired direct. There was a phase in the 1990s where they were being hired directly from Indian institutions. That is one of the problems. Initially, what happened was when this IT boom began, so this word body shopping had become very common. So there were problems with that. I mean, as I said, that side also needs to be recognized, because naturally the IT boom happened. Anybody who had basics, if people say so, that suppose, as I said, if you can hire someone at 70 or 80,000 and you have to pay a local much more for that, they were employing people from here. So that aspect needed to be corrected. But the Trump administration is doing it from a different dimension. But I may also mention that first there was no clarification whether this is a one-time fee or whether it is a one-time fee.
And I think this fee would be paid by the employer itself.
By the employer, and earlier, and of course it's a big, earlier it was between $2,000 and $5,000. And as I mentioned earlier, I mean, Indians accounted for 70%. After that, it was Chinese. So naturally now that the links between India and China and India and the US in the IT sector are far closer if you look at it in many ways, at least in terms of this, the sort of people to people, the number of IT professionals, the Indian companies benefiting from H-1Bs. So China already has its alternatives in play. As I said, they are coming up with the K visa. And this K visa, of course, has become, I think it's going to come in, it's already come into effect. Now it's interesting, it's symbolic that it was announced around the same time that 2nd October, and this proclamation, I think, by the Trump administration was around 19th September.
And sir, there are a lot of lawsuits that are being filed against this decision in the US courts. So what could be implications of those, because there is a higher possibility that if US courts revokes Trump's decision, then what will happen to those students who have already filed for the H-1B visa, whose application are in process? So what will happen to those people? So there are many questions. The dynamics will be changed 360-degree after the US court decisions.
Yeah, so that part is also there, and that obviously the US courts, they're very proactive, but there are certain, I think there are, now this one needs to understand the technicalities over there.
Okay.
I think, but there is also a thing that the executive has a prerogative over such decisions,
Okay.
right? But for the time being, at least they can stall and they can ensure that people who are in the midst of all. But I also feel one more thing: even if the courts hadn't stepped in, it would cause a major dent to the US IT industry, and think this whole H-1B thing will cause major impact. So in any case, a lot of observers are saying there would have been a course correction down the line, because there will be a lot of domestic pressures as well, and US IT companies are also going to say that this is not working, this 100,000, because one of the reasons why US was competitive for professionals or for students or whatever else, as I said, it's linked to so many aspects of the economy. You can't just view it in isolation. Most people from certain states, for instance, go there with the assumption that they'll get into the absorbed in the IT sector and all that. Why would they then go for higher studies over there? And then countries, if so many countries in the last couple of weeks, Germany is saying that we are welcoming professionals. China, I've told you, for Indians, okay, China still may be more challenging, but Japan is also welcoming Indian students. They have started a scholarship for
Germany is another
Germany is doing it, but and the other important aspect is that all these countries, earlier Japan and Germany, the issue was about English, that the courses were not necessarily offered in English. Now they're offering courses in English. So they will become more competitive first for higher education, and professionals also start looking at these opportunities. Then of course you have Canada and UK and things like that.
Also, sir, just last pointers I want to add that is there any chance of revocation of this? That do you think that US court will give an order against Trump? So is there a chance of revocation you are seeing?
Yeah, I mean the way the courts otherwise function, I mean you can't rule out anything else, but you can't rule out anything. But at the same time, you could also have a situation where certain clauses are amended in such a way that virtually this whole thing is ineffective. The proclamation. If you introduce certain clauses which make it very tough to implement it. But I am saying another thing. I mean, I'm also looking at one more fact that down the line, 5 months, 6 months, or whatever else, in any case, I think ultimately there will have to be a rethink over this. Raising the fee was fine. Again, if you want to make it, but suddenly to make it, to raise it from
to such an extent.
Yeah.
So, is there any last pointers you would like to add for the employee and the employers in this case? Is there any last pointers?
See, personally, I mean, I don't think necessarily in the context of that, but I just want to say that, for long, the US soft power was driven by the fact that it was open in terms of, okay, some course corrections were needed. This whole thing about, globalization had also become a bit utopian. But suddenly, I think, it has begun to lose its soft power. Because what did we associate US soft power with? Hollywood, other cultural aspects, and open, when we spoke about the American dream for immigrants and all that, it was a relatively more open country to immigrants. That is changing, so US is losing its soft power. And soft power was in the main, if you look at the global order, whatever it is, hard power was also needed, but soft power also gave the US an edge, especially over China. So this is a loss of, we have discussed this earlier, it's clearly a loss of US soft power. As I said, it cannot be used, this decision itself cannot be viewed totally in isolation. It's a broader trend. And certainly it will impact the, I mean, from India, I think now it's for the first time actually, in spite of all these decisions, that suddenly you are seeing a sudden drop in students going. It's drastic. I mean, again, I'm not saying that everyone will stop going or whatever, but people will be very careful and cautious. So, and people will probably think twice. As it is, even with student visas, there have been issues. Some students have gone with, and they've had I think there were cases of students being deported back. So I think this is going to be. So I think it would be good that if course correction is made, every country has its right to ensure that immigration is manageable. The number of people, that all is fine. Like a lot of if there are issues with illegal, these migrants and all that. But also I think I would just like to add, see, we focus so much on H-1Bs and all that, and that's right. But look at the way even, the illegal immigrants that have been sent back. One is you send them back, that's fine. But what message do you send them out when you don't give, even humane treatment to them? So that is not sending a good signal.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So that was Mani sir. He was explaining about the H-1B visa, and if you have any questions regarding this, if you are also a person who has an American dream, then definitely you can ask questions from us. You can drop down your questions in the comment section below, and we are eager to read it. You are watching DNA, and I am Ayushi Mittal.